I think I'll probably stand up, Daniel. They don't want the two of us together in case the same sniper gets us. Sussex Homeless Support, you might have heard of it. Been gone 5-6 years. Started off feeding 10 people tea, coffee and a bit of grub. Sad to say that this weekend we had well over 250 people queuing up, including families with children. All homeless, whether they're rough sleepers or whether they're in temporary accommodation, emergency accommodation, we don't make any difference. Sometimes in accommodation you're worse off, to be honest. But probably how I got into it was probably the most important part, and that was because I was homeless in Brighton. When I first came to Brighton 30 odd years ago, 40 years ago, I slept on the beach under a boat because that was the safest place. My first place was the Dolphin, which was notoriously famous. There was a sign that said, "We don't need to live like this," and it was signed by the rats. It was that bad. And I went back to the beach because the beach was safer. But I don't think that's important. What's important is how I got out of it. Back then, Brighton was a different place. 70s and 80s, it was just like so cool. Enterprise was everywhere, jobs everywhere, cash in hand everywhere. My first bed sit was £85 a month. So it was easy to see where the bottom rungs of the ladder were so low, yeah? So you could get a job, you got the cash in your hand, you paid the landlord, and it all worked. That's all gone. Consecutive governments, one after the other, have removed the bottom rungs of the ladder and replaced them with barbed wire and, observation posts. Everything's so difficult. If somebody employs you cash in hand now, they're committing a criminal offence and you're committing a criminal offence. So it's made being homeless actually much, much more difficult to get from being homeless to not. And I don't think anybody I've ever met has actually said to me, my ambition when I was at school was to be homeless. In fact, if you go around any school and say to the children in the school, right, who wants to be a fireman, who wants to be this, who wants to be a nurse, who wants to be a social worker, and you'll get the hands going up. But when you then say, right, who wants to shove a shopping trolley along the seafront and get fed cold soup, funnily enough, just nobody puts their hand up. And that proves to me that homelessness and rough sleeping has got to be a product of us. It's got to be a product of society. So somewhere along the line, something went wrong. And a lot of the work that I know I do and I know Daniel does is trying to pick where it went wrong. Not necessarily to help that person, but maybe to find the aha moment and rewind back for the next person so we can identify really, where you went wrong, and more importantly, how we can fix it. And I'm putting this together, today together, and I can only thank Charles and all the guys and Dave that has been the biggest aha moment. Speaking to the people that you're going to see today and listen to today has been the biggest aha moment for me, because it's the first time ever I've heard what the problem is, which you knew. It's the first time ever I've heard people saying where we are now, like this is where we are now. It's the first time I've heard people saying, but we've got these assets and we've got these laws. And then last, probably most important, is this is the solution. Hearing from Preston and people like that, this is what they've done. And really, if we don't leave here today with a clear understanding of how we get together and how we sort it, and it's not just us in this room, it's everybody in this city gets together. And I really truthfully believe that either we can solve it, or B, I'm going to have 500 people standing, in 3 months' time, because that's the absolute reality. Daniel.
Yeah, so I also was homeless. I lived in an emergency accommodation building called Percival Terrace. But weirdly, because my two parents are care leavers, there was a lot of stress in the 90s, and my mum basically had to leave home because of DV, domestic violence. And I'd lived there then, I didn't even realise it, so it came out later. But I saw so many people die, and I was a bit naive because I went to the council. I was working at the time, just had a mental health breakdown because I saw the guy that raped me when I was a kid. So I was a bit naive. I went to the council thinking, there would be help. and they just said you weren't vulnerable enough, and I didn't really know what that meant. So it meant like so much stuff you had to do just to get over those hurdles. And because of that, that's how I've learned it all now, because, you know, it's just how I had to do it. So now I help people. They tend to say that, you know, they don't have anywhere else to go when they come to me. So it's all word of mouth. And I just wanted to just go through something that I do with people. So I do my own homeless assessment. So I assess them myself before they get to the council. Just because, you know, I have seen a lack of, in some people, not all, but I have seen a lack of experience around the law. So it's just to make sure I know where they're at. So now I also do homeless surveys. So before I do that, I get part of this fact find is this. So I just wanted to give you the 23 or 4 that I've got here. So some of them are section 21, so they haven't got any history yet. And then the other ones. So I just want to show you a few things. So I'm looking at how would you rate Brighton and Hove City Council for your homelessness assistance? So as you can see, for up to a maximum of 5 stars, you'll see the sort of the ratings there. And also look at how would you rate the communication with the housing officer. So again, if you sort of do, if you change that over, you'll see that they're sort of, you know, they're 1 to 2 and a couple of 3, but there's no 4, no 5. Did you feel safe in the allocated property you were allocated? So there's lots of nevers, no's, sometimes. You know, that's quite a scary place to be. I mean, I went to the LGBTQ plus conference and they were really talking about trans people, and they did a study, and trans people were talking about where they felt safe, in particular in the community, where they felt unsafe, and it was like, oh, that's quite eye-opening, you know? So, and a lot of my clients are women, so this is something to bear in mind. Most of my clients are women. So then we go on here, we look at, these are actually more of the reasons. I won't go into the actual ins and outs. I will produce a report when I get time. And then I now do mental health and wellbeing because I live with bipolar type 2. They reckon I've got ADHD and I have a complex form of post-traumatic stress disorder. So that's why I can be challenging sometimes. But ultimately, I'm really interested from the client's perspective because I know where they are at the point when they contact me. So these are NHS standards. So when I've gone to NHS practices or seen psychiatrists, this is what they get me to fill out. So now I get to do it. And it looks at loneliness, so on a scale of 1 to 10 in the last 2 weeks, how often have you felt lonely? So 10 would be the worst, okay, so 1 would be the best. So if you have a look there, the best number we got was 5, sort of satisfactory. So there's no one that's not feeling not lonely. So stress is quite a high one as well. That's probably one of the highest numbers of 10s. So it's a very stressful situation. So why is that stressful? And this is sort of documented within the rest of the survey, which I'm not showing here. And then, yeah, you've got suicidal thoughts. There's quite a lot of high numbers and low numbers, sort of medium numbers. So there is a variety, but it's quite concerning just from looking at that. Isolation there. So people, I think we've had a few other comments there, but people are feeling isolated, not just in homelessness accommodation, but also when they go into accommodation after homelessness as well. So what's the move on? And you've got happiness there. So again, you've not got, very often would be, you know, 10s and stuff. So if you get 1s and 2s on happiness, that means they're not happy. And friends and family, again, you know, people aren't seeing friends and family. But the best question really was, how do you feel your homelessness journey has improved or worsened your mental health? And everybody pretty much has said it's worsened. Not one person said it's improved. So I think that's really where I'll end at. Thank you.
Can you hear me? Yes, thank you very much, Jim and Daniel, for the other speakers. We have a very clear picture of how street homelessness affects us.